Israel is possibly the most controversial country in existence. When there are global events like wars, it's talked about. When the situation is peaceful, it's also discussed. But here's what most people don't realize about life in this fascinating country. There are unwritten rules that could get you in serious trouble if you break them. There are traditions so deeply rooted that even secular Israelis follow them without question. And there's a military culture so intense that carrying weapons in public is completely normal. Today, I'm going to reveal 20 shocking facts about life in Israel that will completely change how you see this country. From the things you absolutely cannot do if you visit, to the hidden realities of daily life that locals never talk about with outsiders. These are the real, unfiltered truths about daily life in the only Jewish state in the world. 1. The Sabbath completely shuts down the country. Let me start with something that shocks every first-time visitor. From Friday evening until Saturday evening, Israel essentially stops functioning. This isn't just about religious observance. Even secular Israelis respect the Sabbath to some degree. Public transportation stops running. Most stores close. And even the airport has limited operations. But here's what's really interesting. During Yom Kippur, the holiest day in Judaism, the entire country becomes eerily quiet. Streets that are normally packed with traffic become completely empty. It's like a post-apocalyptic movie. Children ride bicycles down major highways because there are literally no cars. This happens in a modern, technologically advanced country in the 21st century. If you're visiting during Shabbat, you need to plan ahead. Stock up on food and water. Make sure your hotel can accommodate you. And whatever you do, don't try to drive in religious neighborhoods. You might find your car surrounded by angry residents throwing stones. 2. Military service creates a unique social dynamic. Military service is mandatory for most Israelis. Men serve for 32 months, women for 24 months. When you're walking around Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, those young people you see carrying assault rifles aren't police or security guards. They're regular citizens doing their military service. It's completely normal to see someone in full military gear buying coffee or hanging out at the beach. This creates a culture where everyone has military training and experience. But here's the part that really surprised me. The military isn't just about fighting, it's where many Israelis learn technical skills, leadership, and even start their careers. Some of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in Israel got their start in elite military intelligence units. The famous Unit 8200, for example, has produced more tech billionaires per capita than probably any other organization in the world. 3. The cost of living will shock you. Everyone knows that Israel is expensive, but the reality is even worse than you think. Tel Aviv is consistently ranked as one of the most expensive cities in the world. We're talking about rent prices that rival New York or London, but with average salaries that are significantly lower. A one-bedroom apartment in Tel Aviv can easily cost $1,500 to $2,000 per month. A simple meal at a restaurant might cost $25 to $30. Even basic groceries are incredibly expensive because so much has to be imported. Despite these high costs, Israelis have one of the highest fertility rates among developed countries. The average Israeli family has almost 3 children. Compare that to countries like Japan or South Korea, where people can barely afford to have 1 child. Somehow, Israelis make it work, often through extended family support and government benefits. Sign up for incredible adventures and fascinating facts that go beyond the textbook. 4. The diversity will surprise you. Most people think of Israel as a homogeneous Jewish state, but the reality is incredibly diverse. You have Ashkenazi Jews from Europe, Sephardic Jews from Spain and North Africa, Mizrahi Jews from the Middle East, Ethiopian Jews, Russian Jews, and many others. Each group brought their own traditions, languages, and customs. Then you have the 20% of the population that isn't Jewish at all. Israeli Arabs, Druze, Christians, and other minorities. In cities like Haifa, you'll find mosques, churches, and synagogues within walking distance of each other. The Baha'i Gardens in Haifa are one of the most beautiful religious sites in the world, and they're not even Jewish. This diversity also creates tensions. There are social hierarchies based on when your family immigrated to Israel. Ashkenazi Jews who arrived early often have more economic and political power. More recent immigrants, especially from Ethiopia or the former Soviet Union, sometimes face discrimination. 5. The technology scene is absolutely insane. Israel is called the startup nation for good reason. With a population of only about 10 million people, Israel has more companies listed on NASDAQ than any country except the United States and China. Tel Aviv has been called the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, but that actually undersells it. The concentration of tech talent and innovation in Israel is probably higher than anywhere else in the world. Companies like Intel, Google, Microsoft, and Apple all have major research and development centers in Israel. But here's what's really interesting. Much of this innovation comes from the military technology sector. Israel faces constant security threats, so they've had to become incredibly innovative in areas like cybersecurity, surveillance, and defense technology. These military innovations then get adapted for civilian use. The Iron Dome missile defense system, for example, uses technology that's now being applied to autonomous vehicles and artificial intelligence. It's like the entire country is one giant research and development lab. 6. The food culture is more complex than you think. Everyone knows about hummus and falafel, but Israeli food culture is way more interesting than most people realize. Because Jews came to Israel from all over the world, the cuisine is this incredible fusion of different traditions. You'll find Moroccan tagines next to Polish pierogi, next to Iraqi kuba. Ethiopian Jews brought injera bread and spicy stews. Russian immigrants introduced borscht and blini. The result is this amazing culinary melting pot that you can't find anywhere else in the world. But here's where it gets tricky. Kosher laws significantly impact what and how people eat. Even secular Israelis often keep some level of kosher, especially in public settings. 7. The language situation is mind-blowing. Israel is the only country in the world that successfully revived a dead language. Hebrew was essentially a liturgical language for over 1,500 years, used only for religious texts and prayers. But when Jewish nationalism began in the late 19th century, pioneers like Eliezer ben Yehuda literally brought Hebrew back to life as a spoken language. Today, Hebrew is the primary language of Israel, but the linguistic landscape is incredibly complex. You'll hear Arabic, Russian, English, French, Amharic, and dozens of other languages on the streets. Many Israelis are trilingual or even quadrilingual. Russian is so common that you can live in certain neighborhoods of Tel Aviv or Jerusalem speaking only Russian. 8. The political divisions run deeper than you imagine. Most people know that Israeli society is politically divided, but the reality is even more complex than what you see in international news. You have secular Ashkenazi Jews who tend to be more liberal, religious Zionists who are often right-wing, ultra-Orthodox Jews who sometimes oppose Zionism entirely, Israeli Arabs who face their own internal divisions, Russian immigrants who brought their own political culture, and Ethiopian Jews who often feel marginalized by everyone else. The result is that Israeli governments are almost always coalitions of multiple parties with very different ideologies. Benjamin Netanyahu, for example, has been prime minister multiple times but has never had a stable majority. 9. The security measures are unlike anywhere else. Living in Israel means accepting a level of security consciousness that would seem paranoid anywhere else in the world. Every public building has metal detectors. Shopping malls have armed guards who check bags. Restaurants often have security personnel at the entrance. The famous Iron Dome missile defense system is just the most visible part of Israel's security infrastructure. There are layers upon layers of defense systems, intelligence networks, and emergency protocols that most people never see. Every Israeli knows where the nearest bomb shelter is located. Air raid sirens are tested regularly, and everyone knows exactly what to do when they hear them. Despite all these security measures, or maybe because of them, Israelis often feel safer in their daily lives than people in many other countries. Crime rates are relatively low, and there's a strong sense of community solidarity. 10. The education system is incredibly competitive. Israeli parents are absolutely obsessed with education, and the competition starts early. But here's what makes it even more intense. Because of mandatory military service, most Israelis don't start university until they're 21 or 22 years old. This means they're more mature and focused when they finally get to higher education, but it also means the competition is fierce. The result is that Israel has one of the highest rates of university education in the world. Over 50% of Israelis have some form of higher education. This educated population is one of the reasons why Israel punches so far above its weight in technology and innovation. 11. The dating and marriage culture is unique. Dating in Israel is unlike anywhere else in the world, and it's shaped by some very specific cultural factors. First, because everyone serves in the military, many people meet their future spouses during their service. Second, Israeli society is still relatively traditional when it comes to marriage and family. Being single past your late 20s is considered unusual and often leads to constant questions from family and friends. But here's where it gets complicated. Israel doesn't have civil marriage. All marriages must be performed by religious authorities, whether Jewish, Muslim, Christian, or Druze. The solution many Israelis have found is to get married abroad, often in Cyprus, and then have their marriages recognized when they return to Israel. 12. The startup culture affects everyone. The startup mentality in Israel goes far beyond just technology companies. It's become a way of thinking that affects how Israelis approach everything from business to personal relationships to solving everyday problems. Israelis have this concept called chutzpah, which roughly translates to audacity or nerve. It's the willingness to take risks, challenge authority, and try things that might seem impossible. This attitude is partly what makes Israeli startups so successful, but it also affects how people interact in daily life. 13. The climate creates unique lifestyle patterns. Israel's Mediterranean climate sounds pleasant, but it actually creates some unique challenges and lifestyle adaptations. The summer heat in places like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem can be absolutely brutal, with temperatures regularly exceeding 95 degrees Fahrenheit and high humidity. This has led to some interesting cultural adaptations. Many Israelis take afternoon naps during the hottest part of the day, similar to the siesta culture in Spain. Businesses often close for a few hours in the afternoon and then reopen in the evening when it's cooler. The beach culture in Tel Aviv is incredibly important, partly because it provides relief from the heat. But it's also become a social equalizer where people from all backgrounds come together. You'll see Orthodox Jews, secular Israelis, Arab citizens, and tourists all sharing the same beaches. 14. The neighborhood dynamics are fascinating. Israeli cities are organized into neighborhoods that often have very distinct characters and demographics. In Jerusalem, for example, you have ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods like Mea Shearim, where time seems to have stopped in the 18th century, right next to trendy secular neighborhoods with cafes and art galleries. These neighborhood divisions aren't just about lifestyle preferences. They often reflect deeper social and economic inequalities. Ashkenazi Jews tend to live in more affluent neighborhoods, while Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews, along with Israeli Arabs, are often concentrated in less wealthy areas. But here's what's really interesting. Unlike American suburbs where different communities are separated by miles, in Israel you can walk from an ultra-Orthodox neighborhood to a secular area to an Arab neighborhood in just a few minutes. This proximity creates both tension and opportunity. Young Israelis often grow up exposed to incredible diversity, even if they don't always interact across community lines. It's one of the reasons why Israeli society, despite its divisions, has a certain resilience and adaptability. 15. The housing crisis is absolutely devastating. Despite being a wealthy, developed country, Israel is facing one of the worst housing crises in the world. Young Israelis are increasingly unable to afford homes in the cities where they work, creating a generation that may never achieve homeownership. In Tel Aviv, the average apartment costs over $1 million. Even in smaller cities, housing prices have increased by over 200% in the last decade. Meanwhile, average salaries haven't kept pace at all. A typical Israeli software engineer making $6,000 per month still can't afford to buy an apartment in Tel Aviv. This has created some bizarre living situations. It's common for people in their 30s and 40s to still live with roommates or with their parents. Young couples often delay having children because they can't afford larger apartments. 16. The Army experience shapes everything. In the Army, Israelis from completely different backgrounds are forced to work together. A secular Ashkenazi Jew from Tel Aviv might serve alongside a religious Mizrahi Jew from a development town, and an Israeli Arab who volunteered for service. These relationships often last for life and create bonds that cross social and ethnic lines. But here's what's really fascinating. The Army also serves as a massive training ground for leadership and technical skills. Many of Israel's most successful entrepreneurs and politicians got their start in elite military units. The famous saying is that Israel doesn't have an army, the army has Israel. The military experience also creates a unique attitude toward authority and hierarchy. Israelis learn to follow orders when necessary, but they also learn to think independently and challenge decisions when they don't make sense. This creates a culture where people respect competence more than titles or formal authority. Ultra-Orthodox Jews, who make up about 12% of the population, often don't serve in the military, don't work in the regular economy, and receive government subsidies to study religious texts full-time. This creates enormous resentment among secular Israelis who serve in the army and pay taxes to support people they see as freeloaders. But here's where it gets really complicated. Ultra-Orthodox families have an average of 7 children, compared to about 2.5 for secular families. This means that in a few decades, ultra-Orthodox Jews could become a much larger percentage of the population, potentially changing the entire character of Israeli society. The tensions between these communities sometimes erupt into actual conflicts. There have been protests, boycotts, and even violence over issues like military service, government funding, and religious laws. Some secular Israelis talk about leaving the country if it becomes too religious, while some religious Jews believe secular culture is destroying Jewish values. 18. The innovation in agriculture is mind-blowing. Israel has achieved something that seems impossible. They've turned a desert into one of the most agriculturally productive regions in the world. Over 60% of Israel is desert, yet they export agricultural products to Europe and have become world leaders in agricultural technology. The famous drip irrigation system was invented in Israel and is now used worldwide. Israeli farmers use sensors, artificial intelligence, and precision agriculture techniques that are decades ahead of most other countries. But here's what's really amazing. Israel actually produces more food than it consumes, despite having very limited arable land and scarce water resources. They've achieved this through a combination of technology, innovation, and sheer determination to make the desert bloom. 19. The cultural scene punches way above its weight. Israeli films regularly win international awards. Israeli musicians perform in major venues worldwide. Israeli authors write best-selling novels that get translated into dozens of languages. Tel Aviv has been called one of the world's great cultural cities, with more museums per capita than almost anywhere else. The Israel Philharmonic Orchestra is considered one of the best in the world. The Israeli film industry produces movies that compete at Cannes and the Academy Awards. The cultural scene also reflects Israel's incredible diversity. You have Ethiopian Israeli musicians creating fusion genres, Arab Israeli filmmakers telling stories about minority experiences, and Russian Israeli artists bringing Eastern European influences. This diversity creates a cultural richness that's remarkable for such a small country. 20. The future is completely uncertain. Israelis live with the constant awareness that their country's existence is not guaranteed, that wars could break out at any time, and that the political situation could change dramatically. This uncertainty affects everything from personal decisions to business planning to government policy. Young Israelis often keep foreign passports as insurance policies. Businesses plan for disruptions that would seem paranoid in other countries. Families make decisions about where to live based partly on security considerations. But here's the paradox. This uncertainty has also created a culture of resilience, innovation, and living life to the fullest. Israelis don't take anything for granted, so they tend to be more direct about expressing their feelings, more willing to take risks, and more focused on enjoying the present moment. If you found these insights fascinating, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into countries and cultures that will challenge everything you think you know about the world. And let me know in the comments which fact surprised you the most, or if you have personal experiences living in or visiting Israel that confirm or contradict what we've discussed today. We are so glad you are with us today. Please leave a comment, like the video to support us, and subscribe for more videos. See you soon.